when I learned there was this tool, Polarion, right? What are some of the things this system can do? I was like, let me play with it, please. Let me see what's going on, right? So I used our example to put a business case together for Polarion. And one of the things I wanted to point out to our leadership, where these pain points were, right? And just to highlight a few, with the test script relationships, even with the risk-based approach, it was very manual and still quite error prone. So with Polarion, workflow approvals, right, and signatures are built into the system, which were fantastic and can be automated, right? And that's creating that digital thread in the system that can easily compare and provide a summary of relationships to the user. To me, this is one of the most beautiful things that Polarion was able to do for me, having so many software system validations and changes to manage, to be able to find them quickly, to do regression analysis quickly, rather than just having to, search or keep a file index in Excel, right? And another one of the pain points that we dealt with was having to look up previous test scripts to run them maybe a second or third time. A lot of our workflow changes were small, so they were very similar to things we did in the past. And we would have to remember, well, what was that number? Oh yeah, 233. That was the one we keep reusing again, right? When all these are in Polarion, you can find them quickly and you can just reuse it. It is beautiful. It keeps things organized if you're a person like that. And that's where I saw a lot of the labor hours time spent significantly reduced. So like, how are you reducing these labor hours? It's by small things like this that add up, and a system to make things, so compact and all in one spot. And that was really one of the technology issues and benefits that we saw with Polarion. Roy, I don't know if you're seeing anything different, as you guys are integrating with Polarion now, or you have been. So feel free to also touch on a few of those points.
Sure. So from where we are in the journey with Polarion piece at BD, we have it used in one of our business units. We're leveraging it for its use effectively there. We haven't made it the enterprise platform yet, but we're working on some components there. But it does show a lot of value in doing that, in actually making your traceability digital, not necessarily automatic. It's still you put the logic together, but it actually tracks the ability to say you have one place to find it versus having to manually create it every time, which is very effective. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of downstream integrations that look at whether, when we'll be able to do and stuff, but it has a lot of value there. I think the biggest piece in this in general, and this is true about Polarion or other digital, connectivities, is the ability to not have to rely on a person typing in the wrong or the right number every single time. Right? The traceability matrix that's 400 pages long, it's in Excel, is a god-awful mess. The traceability of, hey, I have 400 requirements done by this test script. No, you don't. You just documented it that way. The ability to actually verify that it's done, if your requirements are at the atomic level, you know where they are, you can actually trace them and track them and get them the piece of it. That gets a lot of that administrative overhead out of the way, and you can then focus, did I really test what I was supposed to test, versus just did I document it correctly, right? So that's one of the key pieces there as well. But I think that's true of any organization that's looking at trying to go from the old document-based, paper-based set of requirements to an actual requirements management solution where you can actually track it at the individual discrete level. Okay? Yeah. Now, that logic can be built in multiple ways. Having a tool that does it will facilitate it and make it work, but the concept or the mindset of how do I get my requirements, how do I make sure they're traced, how to make sure they work, is the key piece that needs to actually, I think, work out for everybody. So. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what you guys went through. Again, one difference I think with other tools is this is a data-centric tool, right? It is not a document-centric tool as you're looking at, which enables a lot of what you both just spoke to. Another slide, Frank, that you had put together. If you want to speak to this, Roy, feel free to add.
Yeah, so we also wanted to be able to show the impact of Polarion, right? How do you sell? Because you have to sell this. You do have to put a little bit of effort into integrating into your system, and that's where the compliance group also comes in. They did a fantastic job in working with us. But for me, project management and CSV change control was instant gratification with Polarion, right? Going from that file folder with over 900 validation test scripts to having a single dashboard for Polarion, right? If you're somebody that manages a team of validation, members, or, throughout multiple business units within an organization, to have one central hub was enormous. It was so nice to have. It was so convenient, right? People asking for updates, where things are at. You can configure things, and it's not that difficult to set up, right? It's not another system that you have to set up and manage and take care of, right? This was easy to use. I didn't want anything hard. And then another Polarion feature that helped me sleep better at night was the digital thread that it creates for documentation requirements. So we validated at the requirement level. So if we were changing something and this requirement was changing, now with the digital thread, we were able to see where did this requirement touch, right? I didn't have to rely on going back through papers or Excel, right? It did it automatically. And I knew I had to retest this, I had to retest this, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Before Polarion, we had to be on point with that tracking system, and we were good, but with auditors coming in, when they see the digital thread system like this, they had no questions. They didn't even dig. They were more impressed with how much we had built into our system and the knowledge, knowing that we were properly testing and doing regression testing. So, most times people would get really scared when the auditors would come in to talk about CSV. I wasn't scared. I was always ready to go, and I looked forward to the discussions. They weren't always easy, but I knew I had some great tools and resources to rely on. So, Roy, I don't know, what other impacts you see with Polarion, throughout BD?
I think you covered it pretty well. The basic gist of it is having the ability to find evidence quickly in an audit cannot be understated. Having to traverse through 9 different or more different repositories where the information is painful, right, at best. And there are times when you're just not going to find it. So having a single location to find all the information, regardless of what it is key to being able to be audit ready, as an example.
Yeah. So, one of the best things with Polarion too, just to make a final point, is that you can build that risk into it. And we had a very risk-based decision tree, and we were able to set up that logic so people could just do it right within the system. And there were, again, less errors. We were circling things on PowerPoint or flow diagrams before, right? The system did this all, and it could make nice documents. So that was one of my requirements, why I loved Polarion versus other systems that kind of do the similar things. You could really configure it based on risk-based for this purpose.